Selamat siang. Welcome back to another Bali COVID-19 update, and this is December 5th, 2021, and I'm Bruce. And this is a good news report today. Good news because, well, there's no bad news, and so that's why it's good news. Let's jump right into the numbers. So the 7-day average for new positive cases is at 11, and so it's steady. And the 7-day average for deaths is still at 1. While it was creeping up, it has stopped and stayed steady. So, good news. And what about around the country? That's good news. 246 new cases and only 5 deaths. So, things are looking better around the country. No data on testing in Indonesia today. And in Bali, 49,364 individuals were tested over the last 7 days with a 0.16 positivity rate. Okay, more good news. See what I mean? And what about vaccination numbers? First dose, 3,455,205, 77.4% of the population. And second dose, 3,050,386, 68.3% of the population. So continuing to inch up towards the 70% on fully vaxxed in Bali, if we count 70% as being the herd immunity number. And yesterday, 3,076 doses were administered. And what about in Bali? New cases in Bali yesterday, 10. Recorded deaths, 1. Active cases, 168, and no data on recoveries. Good news on the number front. We're holding steady at a low number, and so that's positive. And before I get into vaccines and vaccinations, let's get to the, well, it would be the big story, except it's been here for a couple of days now. This is the 5th. It started on the 3rd. The quarantine went up to 10 days from 7, and so let's talk about that next. And as everybody probably knows already, the quarantine on new arrivals has increased to 10 days. So we've gone from 3 to 7 to 10. And this article, Luhut says foreign quarantine rules have been extended from 7 days to 10 days. Pak Luhut said the new quarantine will apply to travelers who come from countries outside the 11 countries that have been banned from entering Indonesia. This step was taking into account the increasing number of countries detecting Omicron variant. The quarantine extension started the other day, December 3rd. According to Pak Luhut, of course, the policies taken will continue to be evaluated periodically while we come to understand and explore information about this new variant. And for those of you that are interested in the technicalities, the legalities of this is based on Circular SE number 23 of 2021 concerning international travel health protocols. And there's a link below. So if you are a foreigner and you're coming into Indonesia, you're going to have to quarantine for 10 days. And I see on social media there is a lot of people saying, no, that's not true. Yes, it is true. The official thing is down here below. And despite what the hotels may have told you, it is 10 days. And now that the official document is out, I'm sure they're going to be updating their websites and information. And more on Pak Luhut. Luhut banned state officials from going abroad to prevent Omicron variants from entering Indonesia, of course. This prohibition applies to all state officials at all levels of offices except for those carrying out important state duties. Okay, I wonder how they define important state duties. Meanwhile, for the rest of us, Pak Luhut has appealed to the public not to travel unless absolutely necessary. And this is particularly true for international travel. He said, for the general public, it is still an appeal, so Indonesian citizens are advised not to travel abroad first. This is to prevent and keep the pandemic under control in this country. And the government is wrapping up COVID-19 surveillance as the Omicron threat looms. Okay, and more on Omicron. And so health authorities are aiming to improve its relatively poor contact tracing. I love some of these articles. By working together with village supervisory, non-commissioned officers and public health officers, according to the health minister, Pak Budi, or Minister Budi. He said we need to strengthen our contact tracing and increase the number of patients' close contacts who are tested for COVID-19 so we can find new cases as soon as possible. The ideal contact tracing ratio recommended by the WHO is 30-1. That is, for each person who tests positive, there should be 30 people identified and traced as close contacts. What if you're like me and you don't talk to anybody? And close contact is within 1 meter for 15 minutes or more. Okay, you can hear the birds quite loud. They're upstairs. It's the sound of Bali. So according to the article, Indonesia's contact tracing ratio currently varies greatly from province to province. Bali, for example, can trace an average of 6 close contacts per confirmed case, a long way from 30. Jakarta can get up to 17. So nowhere is close to 30. Pak Budi said the ministry is seeking to carry out more whole genome sequencing, especially in regions with higher risk of seeing another surge of infections, even though Indonesia has yet to report Omicron case. It doesn't mean we don't have any, it just means none have been reported yet. According to Pak Budi, 12 cities and regencies in Java and Bali have started to see an uptick in COVID-19 cases, and I've mentioned that ours has been going up very, very slowly. Pak Budi said without naming the regions, 7 provinces in Java and Bali have recorded a fluctuating number of daily coronavirus cases over the past few days, though the figures remain below 100. Jakarta, for instance, recorded 70 new cases on Wednesday, a slight increase from 40 to 50 since Sunday. And nationwide, our cases are remaining below 300 for the most part. Really good news. Nationwide vaccination rate has also remained low, unfortunately. 46% of the target recipients and 34% of the elderly have been fully vaccinated. So we got a long way to go on getting everybody vaccinated in the country. And I've already talked about in previous videos the restrictions going to level 3 on December 24th, Christmas Eve, and lasting until January 2nd. And here's an interesting article asking for input on Nataru's policy. Coordinating Minister for Human Development and Culture meets with the Archdiocese Cardinal. So Coordinating Minister for Human Development and Culture, Minister Muhajir Effendi, met with Cardinal Ignatius Suharyo, or Father Haryo, to ask for input on the special policies during Christmas and New Year holiday. Minister Muhajir said it's hoped that the policy issued by the government regarding Nataru will be in accordance with the expectations of all parties. And he said that this policy was taken as part of the policy for the implementation of community activity restrictions, or PPKM, which will be implemented throughout the country. So the minister was assuring the Cardinal that this was not specifically done to impact Christians' Christmas holiday, but that it's part of an overall policy to keep the number of cases down. And Father Haryo said that the Catholic Church, particularly the Archdiocese of Jakarta, would wait for government's decision, and he believed that the policies have gone through the proper channels in the government with input from various parties. And he said the congregants of the Catholic Church will adjust. So although Christmas is usually celebrated past midnight, surely if the government decides not to allow crowds past midnight, we will adjust accordingly. And Minister Muhajir has already met with the Association of Indonesian Churches, PGI, to ask for the same input regarding government policies during the Nataru holiday. And I still like saying Nataru. And vaccines and vaccinations. So what's happening now with Omicron? People are talking about boosters, and is Omicron going to be able to evade the vaccines that are out now? And nothing is clear on that yet. Remember, just let's wait to see what happens with the testing. Here's an article, Government Mulling, Vaccine Boosters Over Omicron Concerns, Task Force. Presently, and this is the important part, the focus is on getting everybody first and second doses. That's what needs to be done first before we start shooting everybody up with a third shot, because there's a long way to go before we get to 70%, which is what the government wants, of the target group in order to be herd immunity. According to the government spokesperson, first and second vaccination should be done once it's complete. If there are immunity levels remaining, then the third would not be needed. If immunity is decreasing, then we do a third dose. And according to the task force spokesperson, Adi Sasmito, I would like to remind people that there are 3 methods to collectively prevent COVID-19 infection, namely stringent health protocols, 3T, which stands for testing, tracing, and treatment, and vaccinations. He said vaccination is not the only thing that needs to be done, and that the central government is continuously monitoring vaccination achievement in every region. And as I mentioned before, and if you've been here and traveled around the country, you know some places are really remote and really hard to get to, including some of my favorite places in the Moluccas and in Papua. And the spokesperson said, including the ones in remote points, because there are several problems such as the logistics of getting there, the vaccinators, and the people. However, he said, with proper management as well as the help of the military, the police, and civilians, this should not be a problem. We need to get the whole country vaccinated, and let's hope that that is done as soon as possible. And more on vaccines and vaccinations. And so what about this booster? Paid. Minister of Health predicts the 3rd most expensive vaccine price of Indonesian rupiah 300,000. Pak Luhut was in Bali, and I don't know, is he still here? Everybody's coming to Bali. And so Pak Luhut was addressing a health business gathering in Nusa Dua, and one of the things he talked about was the 3rd vaccine. Unlike the first 2 vaccines, which have been free, the 3rd vaccine, which is planned to start in January 2022, will be implemented independently or paid for. Now, I'm not sure what implemented independently means. Paid for, I understand. Pak Luhut said, yes, some are paid, but later there will be around 100 million people who do not pay because the economy has to be seen. And he said, if I do it, I will definitely pay. Good for Pak Luhut. And when Pak Luhut was asked about the price, well, he said, talk to the health minister. And so Pak Budi, our health minister, said, yes, the most expensive will be 300,000. At this point, however, 3rd doses are only for health workers, and when it's expanded, the elderly will be next. I guess that's me. Now, am I going to pay 300,000 for myself and my wife to get vaccinated? And then I've got my kids, my son, 3 daughters. My son-in-laws can pay for themselves. I don't know. Wow, that's going to be expensive. If you get a family, well, so we got my family. We got, what, 3, 4 kids? Me and my wife, that's 6 times 3. That would be 1,800,000. Okay, that's a lot of money if you're going to vaccinate the whole family. It'll be interesting to see how this turns out in the end. Will you pay for a 3rd vaccine? Will you pay for a booster? I don't know. Leave a comment below. And the president was here in Bali again this week. Jokowi departs for Bali to monitor facilities for G20. So now that President Jokowi is the head of G20 for the next year, he's taking all this very seriously. And so the president and the first lady, Iriana, came to Bali on a working visit. And so why did the president come here? He came here to monitor a number of facilities and infrastructure being built for the upcoming G20 summit. And these include mangrove conservation forest, road infrastructure, pedestrians, bridges, and a number of locations in the Nusa Dua area. Okay, so a lot of construction work going on down there, I guess. And if any of you are in that area and you've seen it, please leave a comment below. What do you see being built? And more on G20. All right, we know the president was here. He may still be here. I don't know. I haven't seen that he left, but probably not. Indonesia's G20 presidency to help create 33,000 jobs, Airlangga. So the coordinating minister for economic affairs, Airlangga Hartarto, said that the presidency of the G20 group of rich and developing countries with Indonesia as host would bring a multiplier effect on the domestic economy. According to Minister Airlangga, the multilateral forum will be held in more than 19 cities with 150 meetings. Wow, what cities are they going to be held in? 19 cities? And 18,000 delegates are expected to attend, and this will create around 33,000 jobs. Well, that's great news. And according to the minister, the meetings will boost domestic consumption by 1.7 trillion rupiah, and the national gross domestic product to 7.4 trillion rupiah. Okay, so that is going to be a big boost. The theme of the G20 meeting? Recover together, recover stronger. And Indonesia's G20 presidency is expected to present a new spirit to create a world order that not only provides prosperity, but also ensures life sustainability in the future. The meeting will focus on discussing 3 strategic issues: health management, digital-based economic transformation, and the transition to sustainable energy. All worthwhile goals. And Minister Erlangga went on and said that Indonesia will use the G20 presidency to fight for the aspirations and interests of developing nations in a bid to create fair global governance, and particularly to strengthen global solidarity in overcoming the threat of climate change and promoting sustainable development. Okay, we're outside, and well, no telling how long. We actually have some sun today, and so, well, I'm so excited and so pumped. Wow, sun. And to the south of us, it is really dark. It looks like it's going to be raining sometime soon in the afternoon, but I'm getting out while I have a chance. And so let's take a look at what's happening around Asia, especially with Omicron, because it's here. Singapore detects first 2 imported COVID-19 cases who test preliminarily positive for Omicron. So preliminary, that's based on today, and this is Saturday. According to a spokesman for the Ministry of Health, there is no evidence currently that community transmission is happening in the cases that have been discovered. The people that have been tested positive so far are fully vaccinated, and they have mild symptoms of cough and a scratchy throat. I had that yesterday, but haven't been anywhere, so I think it's just a cough and scratchy throat, I hope. Both people who've tested positive are relatively young. One is a 44-year-old Singaporean permanent resident who came back from Mozambique and transited in Johannesburg, and the second one is a 41-year-old Singaporean woman who traveled from South Africa. She tested negative on the 29th on her pre-departure test in Johannesburg, as did the man who tested positive on his in Mozambique on the 29th. They underwent PCR tests upon arrival in Singapore and were immediately conveyed to a stay-at-home notice dedicated facility to be isolated while they await test results. Their PCR test results revealed the presence of S-gene target failure, which may be associated with Omicron variant. The Ministry of Health said that the National Public Health Laboratory is conducting whole genome sequencing to confirm if the two have indeed contracted Omicron variant. And the remaining 19 passengers on the same flight tested negative, but they were all quarantined at designated facilities upon arrival and all had PCR tests. And they will have to do another PCR test after their 10-day stay-at-home notice is over. So wait to see if they are finally confirmed as Omicron cases, but it looks like it. And so, okay, we know that we have cases in Korea already, and I'm not sure where else at this point, but it's spreading. And what about Malaysia? Because Singaporeans and Malaysians, there's been travel, right? They have the VTL. Malaysia says monitoring situation after news of Omicron detection in Singapore. So the Health Director General said that additional testing to detect the presence of the new variant would also increase on top of arrival and pre-departure testing. So they're going to ramp up the testing in Malaysia. Malaysia's health minister said his ministry would be increasing genomic surveillance at the country's international gateways to ensure that COVID-19 variant Omicron could be detected quickly. And Malaysia does have a travel ban. It's the usual 8 countries that everybody is banning. And Malaysia on Thursday temporarily barred travelers from more than 20 countries in taking part in the Langkawi International Travel Bubble Program. The countries that have been banned from taking part in the Langkawi International Travel Bubble: the UK, Portugal, Netherlands, Australia, Canada, South Korea, Hong Kong, Israel, Italy, Germany, Denmark, Sweden, Nigeria, Belgium, Japan, Brazil, Norway, Czech Republic, France, Austria, Spain, Saudi Arabia, Ghana, Ireland, the UAE, and California in the United States. Okay, not the whole U.S., just California. So these are places where the Omicron variant has been found. And as of the time of this article, the WHO said that at least 25 countries have reported cases of the Omicron variant. Malaysia has also placed other countries and areas in the high-risk category. These nations haven't yet reported the Omicron-linked cases, but they're considered high risk. And these countries are also barred from taking part in the Langkawi International Travel Bubble Program. And these include Russia, Georgia, Poland, Ukraine, Romania, Slovakia, North Macedonia, Guernsey, Croatia, French Guiana, the Philippines, Libya, Jordan, Bangladesh, Angola, Eswatini, Lesotho, Malawi, Mozambique, Namibia, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. However, at this point, Malaysia has not closed its borders with Singapore. So good for Singaporeans and Malaysians who want to travel back and forth. And immigration and the visas to come into to Bali and Rio as a tourist. Well, people have been wondering, because there's been no word, has anybody actually applied and gotten one of these visas? Well, immigration has issued 153 tourist visas since October. Surprise, surprise. So since October, the Director General of Immigration has approved 153 requests for tourist visas, mostly from France, India, and Sweden. That's interesting, France, India, and Sweden. But you remember there was a segment that I did a few videos ago on talking with the Swedish ambassador, I believe it was, and he said, Swedish backpackers ready to come. And so maybe this is it. Maybe they got these visas, but have they arrived? No, they haven't arrived yet. According to an immigration spokesperson, the application for tourism visas requires a guarantor from a travel agency and is only valid through 2 airports, Hang Nadim in Batam and Ngurah Rai, of course, in Denpasar. And the Immigration Director General also noted that foreigners who enter Bali or Batam area are not allowed to travel to other places in Indonesia. And foreign tourists have to take a direct flight from their country of origin to the 2 regions. I'm not sure why anybody would want this. They're pretty restrictive. You can't go anywhere else. Whereas if you come in on a business visa, B211, you can go wherever you want to. And the cost, I don't know. If anybody knows the cost of one of these tourist visas through a travel agency, let me know, because I haven't seen anything. It'd be really interesting. So please leave a comment below. And other than the tourist visas, the government also approves visa requests for emergency and urgent trips, business trips, and others as stipulated in the Ministry of Law and Human Rights Decree 2021. And the application for a visit visa can be made online via the Immigration DJ official site, Visa Online Immigration GOID, and here's the address here where you can apply for that. But it has to be through a travel agency, so they have to apply for it. Well, Omicron is spreading rapidly around the world, and so tourism recovery faces setback amid fresh COVID-19 scare. Okay, I think we all can figure that one out. The Tourism and Creative Economy Ministry said on Monday it would reevaluate Indonesia's international reopening plans by reviewing the list of countries allowed to open direct flights to certain provinces. The ministry's statement signals a turnaround in Indonesia's reopening plans, which started when Bali and the Rio Islands were reopened to international flights from 19 countries on October 14th. And according to Gadjah Mada University head of Master and Doctoral Programs in Tourism Studies, the new variant is another blow to the tourism industry in Indonesia and across the world. He said industry players needed to focus on domestic and specialized interest tourism such as health or family-friendly destinations to sustain the impact from delayed border openings. He added, it's irrelevant to rely on long-haul tourists from Europe and the United States during and immediately after the pandemic. And Pak Sandiaga reaffirmed the government's plans announced before the discovery of Omicron variant to tighten public activity restrictions, PPKM, during the year-end holidays. The plan to tighten things up was here before Omicron. If it hadn't been there, it would be there now. And Pak Sandiaga said this will be difficult for players in the tourism and creative economy sectors as regulations will change depending on the situation we are facing. Hopefully tourism players can accept this and the impact will not be too severe. But from what I understand, there's a lot of foreign tourists around. Comment the other day that a lot of people down in Sanur, both foreigners and domestic people, a lot of Jakarta plates, of course. So we're just going to have to wait and see how the PPKM restrictions impact domestic tourism here for that time. But people are already coming in. And so I've seen some people around in the neighborhood. I know they've come in from Java, so it looks like people are starting to move already in advance of the level 3 restrictions. And of course, that happens every time the government announces restrictions. People start to move early. And here's an article about the level 3 restrictions and how it will impact domestic tourism. Officials from Badung Regency ask that restrictions not be tightened. So as we know, Bali has been open for international travel since October 14th. And according to this article, I like this, the arrival of foreign tourists to Bali is still low, AKA 0. Okay. But the potential for domestic tourists is quite good, according to the acting head of Badung Tourism Office, Pak Darmawan. He said we have to look at the current policy regarding PPKM and see that, of course, the government is doing it to keep everybody safe. And so that's recognized by all of the tourism players in Bali, he said. He said it's necessary to prevent a fourth wave like what is happening in Europe, and that we don't want this to happen in Indonesia, especially in Bali and Badung. He said it's necessary not to be careless because the risk is very high. We need to apply PROCAS, that's the health and safety protocols. But he continued, the community's economy must not die either, and so business actors are in a tough situation. He said on the one hand, they respect the government and take care of their own safety, including the general public, but on the other hand, it's been almost 2 years that's greatly affected the economy, and of course it's hard for them. He agreed that increasing the quarantine on foreign tourists is something that the government is doing to keep people safe, but at the same time, there should not be increased restrictions on domestic tourists, because Nuarai can accommodate 10,000 passengers a day. And so he said, even though we're tightening things up from the outside, don't tighten up what's already inside so the economy can run even though it's not optimal, but business actors can survive. And so will there be any additional restrictions during the December 24th to January 2nd period? Well, we won't know until it happens. As you know, if you've watched previous videos here, or if you just read the local news, you know that things change regularly. And it's not only in Indonesia, it's happening everywhere else in the world too. Still, that doesn't make it easier to figure out what's going on from day to day. And some more on Bali and some bad news for my little granddaughter who last night was up here looking at the harbor. She hasn't seen the lights on the harbor in a long time, and they're really beautiful at night. See if I can get a photo and put it here. And she said, Grandpa, we'll be able to see fireworks on New Year's Eve there. And I said, I don't know. And here it is. Note, no firecrackers and fireworks during Nataru celebration. So the Badung Civil Service Police Unit at Satpol PP, together with the police, are supervising, and they will discipline traders if they're caught selling firecrackers. Now, every year down on Jalan Diponegoro, everybody sells firecrackers. They were in fireworks. They were last year, even though there was a ban on it. And we had fireworks and firecrackers and everything was going on the New Year's Eve. So I haven't been down to Jalan Diponegoro in a couple of days. And so I'll take a trip down there tomorrow and see what is happening. Are they selling fireworks already or not? And what's Mulling going to do about this? So the fun is going to be banned, and well, you could end up in the police station if you get caught selling or, I suppose, using fireworks. Another quiet year. Okay. In a long time since there's been a naughty tourist, naughty foreigner. Police find skimming equipment scattered in Baklanova Christina's room. So this is in Uluwatu, and the police found skimming equipment in this foreigner's room. She's from the Ukraine, 33 years old. And, well, they found quite a haul of stuff. They didn't say how they found out that she was involved in this. They said they weren't, the ongoing investigation, and they weren't going to talk about it. What did they find there? Well, they found dozens of ATM SIM cards, a number of crypto credit cards, dozens of world's elite corporate cards, a number of personal crypto wallet PCW cards, I don't know what any of these things are, white SIM cards, flash drives, laptops, and cell phones. I know those. So it sounds like she's a professional. So the police aren't willing to release any more details. They ask the public to be patient, and the situation is still developing, and details will be released later. Okay, and this is just a warning, a reminder, if you're here in Bali, I would never use ATMs in the tourist areas. I know people do, but this is where they get hit. And so if you're using ATMs, be careful and, well, keep track of where your money's going. And that is about it for today. So time for a wrap up. So what was the big news last time? Two things: the quarantine increase, that was 7 days, and then the Omicron variant. So what about the Omicron variant? No cases reported yet in Indonesia. Singapore has, Malaysia has, Australia has, Korea has. So it's around the world, but it's not been reported here yet. Positive. Could it be here? It could be, but so far, so good. And there's been a lot of talk about what it is and stuff, but the scientists are not done researching it yet. The early results are that it is really contagious, and there was a story I'm not reporting on about an Omicron outbreak at a Norway Christmas party, the biggest jump outside of South Africa, according to the authorities. So while everybody is ramping up for Omicron, at this point, no awful news has been reported yet. And so let's keep hoping that this is just a mild variant. And what about the quarantine and how that's affecting Bali? Okay, so there are people around, and you get different views depending on when you're there and where you are. So on the one hand, you have Damien, Mr. Monkey, and he was in Ubud the other day, and, well, there wasn't much going on there. You can see up here. And Bobo was down in Kuta, and, well, a lot of that was pretty empty, but he did see some signs of people, and you can take a look at his video up here. And so people are divided on the quarantine. Some people think it's a good idea to try to keep out Omicron from getting into and spreading around Indonesia, and other people are less than happy. So there was a report that I didn't really cover that was in the Bali Discovery online site, and they were mentioning the Badung Regency chapter of the Indonesian Hotel and Restaurants Association, who are not happy with the 10-day extension. And the chairman of the Badung Regency PHRI said that increase in quarantine length is just another challenge and obstacle in the way of Bali's recovery. And he's urging the government to moderate the period travelers are required to go into lockdown. I wouldn't call it lockdown. I don't know why people keep using the word lockdown. We're hardly in lockdown. Of course, the increase in quarantine is going to be controversial. The government said it's necessary. People coming in aren't going to like it, but people don't have to come in. As I've said in other videos, personally, I wouldn't come in myself right now. But I know people have reasons for coming in, or people don't mind being quarantined for 10 days in a hotel. That's up to them. If you come in on the B211, which you still can, now if Omicron does get here, you can never tell what's going to happen with the government in terms of extending the quarantine period or blocking people from coming in. That is unknown at this point. But you get here and you can do stuff and you can travel around. The weather, as I said, is not real good. We did get sunshine yesterday for about half the day, which was great. And there was some sunshine this morning, but it is clouding up now. And I'm inside recording now because, well, it's really, really windy outside. And you may be able to hear the waves crashing against the ocean wall, the sea wall. So all in all, yeah, things are going okay here. Okay, I'm happy. I'm optimistic. December, if you've been watching this for a while, I used to say December is going to happen. Okay, so December is not happening, definitely. Will January, February, March happen? Well, hope so. But at this point, it's hard to tell. Korea has got this 10-day quarantine now when they come back. If they come back from overseas, they've got a 10-day quarantine. So somebody from Korea comes here, they got 10 days here. They go home, they got 10 days, 20 days quarantine. Not happening. And so it's not just us and ending the quarantine here, it's other countries as well. I'm thinking positively, and I'm just happy that we haven't had rain for 24 hours, so I've been able to clean things up. And there's a few less mosquitoes. If you found any of this useful, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. And I do updates every Wednesday and Sunday. Stay safe, be kind to someone today, and keep on hoping if you want to come here. And if you are here, remember, wear a mask. Try to safe distance, although that's just about impossible here. Thanks for viewing. I will see you on Wednesday. Stay safe.